UFP, the United Federation of Podcasts.
Engage.
78 years have passed since the days of the original USS Enterprise. Now a new Galaxy Star ship has been designed.
Transporter Chief, beam our listeners aboard. Welcome to Galaxy Class, a Star Trek Next Generation podcast on the United Federation of Podcast Network. This unfamiliar voice you hear is our chief, disappearing for weeks at a time officer, Rhea Papagiorgio, joined today by the podcast queen herself, Counselor Amy Nelson. Amy!
Rhea,
long time no see!
You are back! I'm excited.
Back.
We have missed you so much.
Oh, I missed you guys so much. It's so good to see your face.
Oh, my goodness. And to be recording with you about Star Trek. This is just how it was meant to be. And this is our first time podcasting solo. Just us. Just the girls.
That's right. Just the ladies.
Nice.
Cool. So how have you been?
Well, as of this recording, school is done for me. Finished the year, surprising, all online, a little bit, kids coming in, but basically all online. It was a very interesting year. I'm looking forward to getting back to normal. I will be teaching summer school. So that starts June 1st to June 30th, and then my summer can officially begin. So it's really weird saying, oh, I'm done with school, but then I have another month. So I'm on edge with that. It's uneasy because I'm used to having my full summer. So.
I'm so jealous. I'm so jealous.
So are you going to tell us how you have been?
Well, so I spent the last 2 months on the U.S.-Mexico border in a couple of different locations, and basically I was there to help out with like the migrant crisis, for lack of a better term. And all politics aside, because if you know me, you know I don't do politics, I don't care about politics, but the fact of the matter is not only are there tens and hundreds of thousands of people crossing the border, but there are tens of thousands of unaccompanied children. And for various reasons, again, I don't want to say anything that could be remotely construed as political, but for various reasons, their parents are paying sometimes thousands of dollars to smugglers to smuggle their kids across the border. And so these kids are here. And basically where I was working at were different camps, or I don't know what exactly the right term is. They're actually kind of like summer camps because these kids are, and the camps I was at, the kids were between the ages of 13 and 17.
Oh, wow.
They're housed, they're clothed, they're fed. They have access to showers and bathrooms, and they go outside and play. And they, some of the camps actually have English classes and other type of classes. Some have, religious services and stuff like that. So they're definitely. They're well taken care of. And some places are run better than others for sure. I know there's a location that's actually in Michigan where the kids stay in cottages.
Oh.
And it is fancy, yes. And they had their like cottage Olympics or something like that between the different houses. So it was interesting. I worked night shift for 2 months, 12-hour shifts, 6 days a week. So I'm still recovering, but it was a great experience. I met wonderful people, and now I'm back.
Your experience, and I'm sure your compassion has grown immensely and just had your eyes opened. I mean, not that they weren't, but like when you're there in it, it's one thing to hear you tell me about it, but what an experience for you.
It was a blast. And the funny thing is, I don't particularly like children, but the nice thing was there was plenty of logistics work for me to do, supply work, acquisition work, even like serving food, lunchtime and stuff like that. So, well, not lunch, it would have been breakfast, but yeah, so good times, good people. But yeah, it is nice to sleep in my own bed during the night and be awake during the day and see the sun and see the beautiful faces of my friends. So
yes.
Yay.
Well, I am absolutely sure that I'm speaking for at least Kevin and Joe, and I'm sure all the listeners. Thank you so much for your service. Really.
Oh.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. That's sweet of you. Thank you so much for teaching the American youths.
The youths.
Because that's the youths. That's something I couldn't do, but anyway.
And you told me that's the exact age that I teach, that high school age. Yeah. Well, they're 14 to 18. Yep.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I love that age group of kids.
They were interesting. And I tell you, some of these kids were sharp. There were kids that spoke 3 languages. There were kids that I saw this kid would just blow through a Rubik's Cube. He'd hand it to a buddy to mess it up for him, and he would just blow through that thing. And I'm like, dude, you going to be an engineer? He's like, yeah, I want to be an engineer. I said, you better be an engineer. I was really impressed by, honestly, even though I don't really like kids, I think kids that age don't get enough credit because they're really capable of a lot more than I think what our culture says they are. Well, let's check the communication array to see if we have any comments from our listeners.
Logs accessed.
We have Greg Molumby. Hi, Greg. Commenting on our last week episode, our watch list for someone becoming someone else. And he writes, great episode. I like how Amy was very Troy-centric. Well, that is me. Yeah. He continues and says, you did miss a few episodes, though, but maybe these don't count. I thought the obvious choice would have been Gambit, where Picard takes on the name of his Professor Galen as a mercenary. This allowed Stewart to play a bad guy, which was kind of fun. I like your pick of Identity Crisis, which is an episode that doesn't get that much mention, but is pretty good, especially with Geordi figuring out everything on the holodeck. I love when the holodeck is used to figure out a problem, rather than just for fun or entertainment. I was thinking of other episodes that don't get mentioned that could fit this topic. Cupid has the entire cast playing Robin Hood characters, but that might not count. Elementary Dear Data has Geordi and Data playing Watson and Holmes, but again, it's holodeck characters, so might not count. Greg, thank you so much for your comment. And we did talk Cupid, Kevin and I, sort of off mic. And decided that was sort of cute, but I love that you brought it up. And I didn't even think of Data and Geordi playing Watson and Holmes. So I'm definitely giving you that one.
So we could have a whole other watch list of when characters are acting as someone else or playing someone else in an acting role. Yeah, like on the holodeck or Gambit. I love Gambit too. And I love Picard as Galen.
Yes.
So. Well, from the Federation Council Chambers, Claude Hogue writes, wishing Amy Nelson a very happy birthday weekend. I hope you have an awesome birthday weekend. Raises a glass. Cheers. I truly hope that you are spoiled by many loved ones on your special day. I always enjoy listening to you on all your podcasts. I'm so very happy that you finally got the Star Trek Next Generation companion book. Great joy and gratitude. Heart emoji, heart emoji, heart emoji. Thank you, Claude. I second that emotion.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I too am glad that I got the companion book. Woohoo!
That's so cool. Who was it that sent that to you?
Christian.
That's right.
Yes.
Aw, you're so sweet, Christian.
I know, he is.
We have wonderful listeners.
This is the captain. Senior officers will report to my ready room immediately.
So today we are going to take a possibly academic study into the Prime Directive, a somewhat controversial topic ever since it was introduced in TOS's Return of the Archons in 1967. It has developed over the decades in the various series, and there's been a lot of debate about, is the Prime Directive good? Is it bad? Amy, what comes to your mind when you think of the Prime Directive?
I feel like it's good in concept to not interfere it just isn't practical, because when you show up to anything, just your presence is an interference.
Yes.
So I think it's interesting as an idea, but to try and live your life by this, it's interesting why it even came up. Like what possessed Gene Roddenberry to come up with this?
Well, I think it makes perfect sense that he came up with something. And I'm not going to quote Jonathan Archer to say, boy, if only there was some sort of prime directive
to guide us in these situations.
Yeah, exactly. But actually, he's right. There does need to be some type of prime directive to guide Starfleet in these situations. But I think the idea behind it is sound. It's designed to protect less advanced civilizations from interference. But, what happens when an entire civilization is going to be destroyed if you don't interfere or do something? According to Voyager, I believe the Prime Directive has 47 suborders. Imagine that. Which, like you were saying earlier, Amy, yeah, in theory, like the concept, the spirit of the law is good, but you have to have so many little stipulations in there to keep from, basically standing idly by while a civilization is destroyed.
Yeah, disaster or, yeah. And is this really like the Prime Directive? Is there not another law, I guess we would say, that supersedes that? I don't know. Is this the one with, because there's so many suborders, like you said, 47, does that cover, obviously it's not going to cover all the scenarios, but is it broad enough to potentially cover all the scenarios? And maybe that's when we see those episodes where they're talking about the Prime Directive or debating whether they should intrude or do something, act, that is there one of those suborders that would cover that they could go to for guidance and or this just came to me. What if the Prime Directive is just there to help you think through a situation so that you can analyze and then make the best choice for that scenario? Is it just there to say, stop, let's think about these things, now act?
That's a good point, where it's more of spirit of the law versus letter of the law. Although in Justice, Worf does say that the Prime Directive is an absolute.
Yes.
But obviously that was season 1 and it's been developed since then, but I don't think that of any directive, that one cannot be absolute.
Well, and it was interesting because in that exact episode, Riker's like, and Picard are like, you can't have one law and just, that's it. One punishment for that. Like you need to analyze and get the context of the scenario. Yeah.
And that episode, for all of its, I don't know, kitschiness, I guess, that kind of underlying comparison of basically the Enterprise crew trying to get around the planet's laws while trying to prove to the godlike being that, they're a culture of their word and that they have laws and honor. Yeah, that kind of makes you think a little bit if you get past the costumes and think a little bit.
Well, it was just on a bat-left battle and I chose justice. So we know, everyone knows that I love it. So
as long as we all cosplay it, I'll be happy. Joe, I'm looking at you. So some of the suborders in the Prime Directive are actually prohibitions. And there was a nice long list of prohibitions. We've kind of picked out a few of them and some episodes that are examples of those prohibitions. Prohibitions against subverting or avoiding the application of a society's laws. Prohibition against taking actions to generally affect a society's overall development. Prohibition against interfering in the internal affairs of a society. Prohibition against helping a society escape a natural disaster, even if inaction would result in the society's extinction. unless the society had warp technology and informally requested aid. Now it looks like we're, looking in a law book there. But when I was thinking about these and rewatching some of these episodes, some of the questions that came to mind were, okay, first of all, did the crew appropriately apply the Prime Directive? Was the society or a particular alien helped or harmed by the Prime Directive? And conversely, was Starfleet or a member of the crew helped or harmed by the Prime Directive? And after watching a few of these episodes, it seemed that it kind of distilled down to balancing the needs of the many against the needs of the one or the few. In Symbiosis, Captain Picard had a quote. See, you guys have been acting stuff out here.
Oh.
And I wish I could do an appropriate non-French accent to Captain Picard, but he says, "The Prime Directive is not just a set of rules, it is a philosophy, and a very correct one. History has proven again and again that whenever mankind interferes with a less developed civilization, no matter how well-intentioned that interference may be, the results are invariably disastrous." So, was Jean-Luc right or wrong?
It's interesting that he says that, because if we look at Symbiosis, and that specific example, was it disastrous? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I think Symbiosis is a very good example of following the Prime Directive.
Yes.
I think they fixed what they broke, and then let the two societies hash out the rest on their own. I don't think because they were already traveling, planet to planet, I think that gave them the okay to even interfere in the first place, to rescue the one shuttlecraft that was going back and forth. Mm-hmm. But I think Symbiosis is a very good example of the Prime Directive working, and finally Picard following it as it should be. Can you think of another example that it is followed correctly? Because that's the big trope on every series. Well, no one follows the Prime Directive. And I think Picard did in Symbiosis.
Yeah, now that you mention it, that's probably the best example, although I'll have to think on it a little. In Who Watches the Watchers and Homeworld, in both of those episodes, there was contamination.
Homeward.
Yeah. Homeward. Both of those episodes, while trying to avoid contamination, there was contamination. Mm-hmm. Although Worf's brother did a little bit more than just contaminate.
Yeah.
But the Enterprise crew was trying to, I guess, repair the damage as best as possible, minimize the disruption to the society. So I think in those two episodes, they were trying to use the Prime Directive to, as a guideline, like to fix the damage that had been done. But yeah, Symbiosis. Well, I can't think of another one where it's as right as it is in Symbiosis.
Exactly. I think that is our shining example. And then the others, we have to ask ourselves, was Jean-Luc right? Was he wrong?
Yeah.
Oh, and also what we could also ask is, what could have been done differently?
Mm-hmm. Right.
I mean, so like you were saying with Homeward, did they ask for help? So is that really fitting into, unless the society formally requests?
Right. And that little stipulation, it seemed like it was developed in Pen Pals, where Sarjenka had, I don't know how formal it was, but, help me, Data. And once Captain Picard heard the little girl's voice, he couldn't resist. But in Homeward, someday I'll learn how to say that. In Homeward, Worf's brother basically became a member of that culture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could say that is a formal request, probably more so than Pen Pals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he had quite an elaborate plan to make it happen.
My goodness, yes. Yeah, you know what? I agree. I think Homeward does fit that definition of formally requesting. I think Pen Pals does not. It definitely pushes the envelope of a request. Is anybody out there? But that's what makes Pen Pals so great. And I see the Masterpiece Society, right? Mm-hmm. Their environment and star and stuff. That's another great episode. And they did ask for help. So I think that fits within, but they didn't have warp technology because they chose not to, but they were advanced enough that they could have. So maybe that allows for the interaction with the Masterpiece Society.
And they were actually humans. If I understood it correctly, they had come from Earth generations and generations prior. That was an interesting one because Captain Picard actually at one point expressed his disdain for genetic manipulation. And so that was an example where he really looked down on their society, kind of the way that I can't think of the guy's name who was kind of the rule keeper on the planet.
Aaron Connor.
Not Aaron Connor, but the other guy.
the law dude. Yeah, I can't remember his name either.
We'll call him the lawyer. Kind of the way that he looked down on Starfleet, Federation society. So you had a kind of differing values there, where they were actually, the lawyer was actually willing to perish rather than change with the times, I guess. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That was an interesting one. Versus like Pen Pals and Homeward. Someday I will learn how to say Homeward. I guess those two are always brought up as an example of the Prime Directive being stupid, because you're going to let an entire civilization be wiped out rather than help them out. And in Pen Pals, there was a really interesting discussion. I think it was in Captain Picard's quarters about whether there was a cosmic plan. And when I look back and rewatch that one always kind of makes me kind of giggle a little, because it's so deistic, whereas Gene Roddenberry was very, very atheistic. And to hear the crew talking about, is there a cosmic plan, and we can't interfere with that plan, and then Troy points out, well, what if us being here right now is part of that plan? Mm-hmm. So I think having this directive that, well, you cannot interfere, even if the entire society is going to be destroyed.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that's an exemption that, make that directive number or suborder number 48.
So another one is interfering with internal affairs, which I find very interesting. And we talked about symbiosis again, like that was the way that their society was set up. We're going to work, and one planet's going to work, and provide everything. And then the other planet's just going to focus on one. I mean, the supply and demand economics of that episode, I think, is very interesting.
Yes.
So we don't interfere. I mean, sort of with, or all of the interfering with the Klingon, with Picard becoming not Chadich, it's the other one.
The arbiter of succession. Yes, the arbiter
of succession. Yeah.
Right.
I cannot believe that Picard did that. I feel that he was in the wrong.
That was a conflict of interest?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But Kempek did ask him.
Right.
So which way is it?
And the Klingon Empire was part of the Federation.
Oh.
So I don't know if that makes it a little bit less of a conflict.
Mm-hmm.
But it was, I guess, because of Picard's service in Starfleet and his career and the reputation that he had built, that Kempek wanted him as the arbiter of succession. But that'd be interesting to be at, Starfleet Command headquarters that day when they're like, Picard, do we approve this? Do we disapprove? What do we do? Be an interesting debate. Now, Symbiosis, one thing I really like about that is, again, you have a culture clash. You have this kind of situation between the two planets there that is just abhorrent to the Federation mindset, and especially to Dr. Crusher. Like, she's just appalled that one planet basically keeps the other planet addicted, for their own financial gain. But they're not a member of the Federation. So, I agree with you. It was 100% right to not interfere. But then by not interfering, basically the two planets had to kind of figure it out for themselves. But by not interfering, it caused or we imagine it caused like a total cultural shift.
That's going to have some serious repercussions. And so they did interfere, but we're hoping that's going to be for their benefit. With the outcast, the internal affairs, the effect of their interfering with Soren, thinking that she's feeling feminine, but then the society is like, nope, we're going to treat this. We do not, no male, no female. We're going to treat this. And again, this one with the outcast, I feel even more so than Symbiosis. Like, this is a moral decision. And so you got what your morals think is right. Like, let the person feel how they feel, be who they are, or not interfering. And I think it's brilliant, because what do you do? Was Picard right?
Well, honestly, I think it's just like Symbiosis. I mean, that you could say is a moral issue as well. I mean, is it okay for one planet to enslave the entire inhabitants of another planet, basically by lying to them and keeping them addicted to this drug just for their own financial benefit? It's another example where the two cultures, where there's something just abhorrent about the other. And on Janai, in the Outcast, it's just abhorrent to the Starfleet mindset, or definitely the modern day Western mindset. Absolutely abhorrent that an individual would not be allowed to choose, his or her own path in life, his or her gender, or its. I don't know what the gender neutral pronoun is. I guess I can't pronounce it. But to their culture, to the Janai, it's just absolutely abhorrent that these Federation people divide themselves into genders and do, nasty things to procreate and whatever else. And it's unthinkable that someone would break from that and want to be, something less than what they are. So that, I think Picard was right. I think it's not up to Starfleet to impose their values, their morals on this other culture, on this other world, even if they find them disgusting, kind of like the Ferengi. Jump to a different series here. The way they treat women is abominable. Many people would say that their kind of worship of capitalism is abominable, but who are we to tell them, how they need to be as a species? So I guess, if you're going to have the Prime Directive, you have to allow things, even if you don't like them, if it's someone else's culture. Now, on the other hand, could the Janai have just let Soren, run off with Riker, and could she have asked for asylum and the Enterprise have granted it? Maybe. But
would that society have allowed it?
And I guess the answer is a big fat no.
Big fat no.
But it's kind of like, now totally crossing podcast streams here, but in the Orville. But maybe this is a conversation for a different podcast.
Maybe a Union Federation podcast?
Maybe.
No, and I wonder if the Prime Directive is to, again, sort of make you stop and think that your morals are yours. And am I expecting everyone, not just on Earth, but everyone in the galaxy to follow our morals, our code? I think that really does take away the diversity and this idic.
Yeah.
That are they are they diametrically opposed?
And you just gave me a great thought. Sometimes Starfleet and the Federation is compared to, like, say, colonial Britain or one of the colonial powers. And I think the difference there is that where some of these, old Earth colonial powers, we'll call them, would go to other continents, other nations, and force them to become just like they were. I think the Prime Directive is Starfleet's and Gene Roddenberry's way of saying that, no, we're not out there trying to force you to be like us. We just want to be friends.
Yes, it's a way to bring people in without forcing your morals and ideas. Yeah.
And oh my gosh, this is so relevant to today. To 2021.
Yes. That we don't have to force our morals, but we can still all be a federation.
Yes. Oh, and again, jumping series here, but if you look at the relationship between Jake and Nog over the course of Deep Space Nine, from where even, Ben Sisko was saying, I don't want you friends with that Ferengi.
Yeah.
To the two of them looking past their various differences and remaining good friends, for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
Squeal.
Ooh.
Can't we all just be like Jake and Nog?
Yes. So what do you think about the suborder prohibition against taking actions that affects a society's development?
That's a good one.
This one, I love the idea, but again, how? How are you even going to follow this? The way you follow it is never meet them.
Right, right.
You are going to affect their development, especially when you are further developed with technology.
Right. Because, so that's something that I was thinking about the first time I watched Enterprise all the way through, where, Warp 5 was the big technology. But when you have cultures that commingle and you've got, trade and that kind of stuff going, once one society develops, Warp 9, it's just a matter of time before they all have it, or a cloaking device, or transporter technology, or whatever. It'll spread like wildfire. So I always wondered kind of about is it arbitrary that they say, okay, until a culture has warp technology, we completely stay out of it? Was that the right point for the Vulcans to make first contact with the Earthlings? Is it an arbitrary kind of yardstick by which to measure, or is that a good point? Because once they develop warp technology, then they can come in contact with other planets, other species, and then that cross mingling, that interfering in society or affecting a society's development is inevitable.
Right, because it's going to happen naturally, organically, as they go and explore. So yeah, once they're exploring, then there's not going to really be that much of an impact. Whereas I can see, to your point, like before warp drive, yeah, that's going to have some major impact. Maybe the society, doesn't look to the stars and they develop technologies just to stay on their planet, and that's
like
fine.
The Masterpiece Society.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
They had no desire to intermingle. But then in First Contact, the episode, not the movie, you've got, kind of like our modern day planet Earth, where we don't have warp technology yet, and you have many people who would be super open, to visits from aliens and, traveling to other planets and having intimate relations with aliens. Some people are all for that, but then you'll have plenty of people who that's terrifying and disaster would ensue. You think we have riots now. Imagine if, we caught an alien undercover on our planet. Oof.
Right? How weird would that be to discover a duck blind?
Yes. Yes.
That would just be freaky.
And, in Star Trek, for example, in Who Watches the Watchers, we totally understand why the Federation had a duck blind there. It makes perfect sense to us, but I always love putting myself in the place of the aliens in the episode. Yeah, what if we on planet Earth discovered a duck blind here, in the US or something, or in Scotland, What if Joe Keegan's really an alien?
Ah!
But I mean, there would be mass hysteria and murders and chaos, and it would just our world would unravel, I think. But
I think so, because you have those who want to go and explore, and then those that want to stay put. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And those who think anything alien is a threat.
Yeah.
Even alien to their own culture or country or, clan or clique or whatever, or political view.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think in Who Watches the Watchers, I think they were also trying to make a point about deism, because it was very kind of bonk on the head in that episode that, it's primitive to believe in a god. I think that was a kind of a recurring theme there. And absolutely, the Enterprise, the crew would appear godlike compared to those proto-Vulcans. Or, what's the episode with the devil?
Ardra?
Comes back to that
it's,
planet.
Devil's Due.
Devil's Due. I love that episode. But because of her technological tricks, she appeared like a god to those people. And, I guess she was interfering in the internal affairs of that society for sure.
Big time for a long time as well.
Yes.
Do you think, talking justice again, that because the inhabitants of the planet didn't know about the Edo, that their development is now drastically changed?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was, I think that episode is probably the stellar example of Prime Directive done wrong. The fact that they even beamed down to that planet in the first place, a planet with no warp technology, a very simple structure, societal structure. That was like mistake number one of many.
Yeah. Well, and they were being transported out in the open for anyone to see. So not even taking a shuttlecraft, which again, they don't know about space and outside of the atmosphere. Like that would be crazy to see them coming in on a shuttle. Even more crazier to see someone appear and disappear, transported.
Right.
That. You're right. Justice is a big flop. But do you give them credit for trying to obey the Prime Directive?
Yes. Again, it's just such a silly, what's the word I'm thinking? And I don't dislike the episode, but, Wesley falls into flowers. Oh, what always cracks me up too is when the mediators come and Wesley's like, I'm all right. And every time I watch that, I'm like, Wesley, nobody cares. Nobody cares if you're all right. It's the flowers, man. But that's another needs of the many versus the needs of the one, because obviously, it's Wesley's life there. And would he, should he be expected to give up his life in order to protect the integrity of that society's laws or not? In Who Watches the Watchers, probably the best thing that happened Prime Directive-wise in that episode was when one of the scientists died on board the Enterprise with one of the proto-Vulcans that was there to see it. And Picard was willing to give his life to protect the sanctity of that culture. Not so much injustice.
So you brought up the needs of the many versus the needs of the one. Justice does not follow that.
No.
And can that question really be applied to the Prime Directive? Because even that one prohibition of, that they have to ask or don't interfere, even if it's inaction would result in extinction. Well, that's the needs of the many.
Right.
Like, can't we use that to justify why we're going in to save?
That's a prohibition that I don't agree with. I think that one needs to go. Because when you have a society, no matter how primitive, and they don't know about space creatures or anything, but if the options are society irreparably changed by interference from alien race or society wiped out of the galaxy, Yeah, what's better for the society? Irreparable change or extinction?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's probably the one that gives the Prime Directive a bad name overall. Maybe a misapplication of the Prime Directive there.
Yeah. Yeah, we should not have that suborder. We're going to delete it, and now there are only 46 suborders.
Were we going to add another one earlier? That would have made it 48, but now that would be 47. I forget what it was. We'll have to re-listen to this.
Yeah. So going back to like Who Watches the Watchers or Justice, where their society is now being completely interrupted because of their belief in a God is now in question. Mm-hmm. Did Picard or anyone else, and especially in Justice, think of that ramification of just, nope, we're going to take Wesley. We hear your crime and punishment laws, but we don't agree with them, and we're just going to take Wesley, and you really just left him out to dry.
Yeah, he Captain Kirk'd him.
Yeah. Oh, now this discussion is making me not like Justice. Oh, dear.
But Justice is good because it brings up all these issues to ponder.
And with Who Watches the Watchers, again, and just because it's episodic TV, but I would love to see a follow-up on either of these to see how their society so abruptly stopped believing in a God. What would that
Mike McMahon,
do?
Lower Decks, are you listening, Lower Decks?
That is a serious question because that you could apply here to Earth.
Yes.
What if something happened to prove that there wasn't a God? What would that do to our society?
Or what if something happened? What if an alien culture, what if we were facing some type of extinction and an alien culture intervened and now they were considered to be gods?
Yes.
Kind of like the Picard or the wormhole aliens.
Yeah. Oh, that hurts my brain. It really does, because I'm like, we as a society have believed in God, whatever God that is, but a God for so long. And then to just like that, have it either be transformed to a new God or to not believe.
So here's one thing that gets me about Who Watches the Watchers is, so this incident happened in a specific town. Let's say, I don't know, I'm trying to pick an obscure town that's not just someplace that I've been. Let's say Marietta, Oklahoma. Let's say they discover a duck blind in Marietta, Oklahoma, and, you know, the alien species, whatever, basically they kind of reason it out with the local leaders, just like Picard did in Who Watches the Watchers. And maybe that's not the best example because nowadays we have social media and TVs and cell phone videos and all that stuff. But in Who Watches the Watchers, it was kind of an isolated incident in this one little town. The town leader is now able to explain it away, basically, that Picard is not a god. There are others out there, but, you know, are they going to keep it quiet to not risk disrupting the rest of their world? Or what communication do they even have with outsiders, aside from Troy and Riker?
You're right.
Who do look lovely in their proto-Romulan makeup.
They do, yes.
Yeah.
You know, that's very interesting because of their level of development wouldn't really be similar to what would happen if it, you know, were to happen in Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. But as you were describing that, I was thinking math. Here's a little math moment. And Chrissie, if you're listening, this is some history that I want more information on. So Fibonacci, well, let me go back. Before we had the numbers that we use, you know how you write 1 and 2, like the look of that number, that's Hindu Arabic. And those numerals came because Fibonacci in the 1500s was a traveler. He went and went to India, went to Middle East, and traveled all through Europe. Like, that's what he did. And it was because of those travels that he was like, oh my gosh, look at how they do their, he was a merchant. Look at how they, sell and handle money is so much more efficient than Roman numerals.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, how the Roman, okay, that there's a whole history there, and I get to talk about it with my kids. But for Fibonacci to come and bring these new numerals into a system, and we're talking the empire, basically all of Europe using Roman numerals, and then to change your entire number system that you know. Like, I think of that as mathematical development, how interesting that would be. And it's very similar. We've had this system for so long as I can remember, and my parents can remember. Like, could you make that transition? And it took so long for Roman numerals to be gone. In applications and in theory. Of course, we use them because they're beautiful in decorations and stuff like that. But the use of Roman numerals, that's all there is to it. We don't use it anymore. So I think that's very similar to sort of what would happen. And there was much resistance. So even in Who Watches the Watchers, they just might have the truth, but who's going to believe them? They're a small little, it's going to take generations. If that, they could just be labeled the crazy town in Oklahoma.
Yep.
And then maybe nothing changes. And they did uphold the Prime Directive.
Well, it's kind of like the U.S. going to metric.
Yes.
It's so it's interesting that you brought up the Roman numerals, because I just listened to a lecture. I'm listening to this course on Mayan culture and civilization.
Ooh, I love the Mayans and their math.
Oh my gosh.
Crazy
Amazing
number system. Okay.
Base 20. Oh,
I know.
Cool stuff. But what he had brought up, the lecture, was that with Roman numerals, you can't do mathematical manipulations like you can with Arabic numbers. And so that was probably the utility of it, is why it eventually did spread. Unlike the metric system in the U.S., but who's still bitter about that?
See, but that's an example of here's something way better, and we're still holding on to the customary gallon or what?
Yes.
Feet. But
that just resistance to and fear of change.
Right?
Even when it's better.
Yeah.
So with Who Watches the Watchers, because they didn't have a notion of a god at that point. It was something, in ancient times, our ancestors. If it provided some sort of utility, I could see it hanging on. But for that Proto-Vulcan culture, I think they succeeded with their Prime Directive there. Justice, who knows? Oh, please, Mike McMahon and Lower Decks, revisit Justice. Squeal, I would love to see that. They could have so much fun with that.
They could. Oh, my goodness.
Well, I think we've done a pretty deep dig into the Prime Directive here, although there's always so much more to discuss. And listeners, we would love to hear your thoughts on the Prime Directive, good, bad, or otherwise.
Yeah. So, Rhea, is the Prime Directive a good or bad thing?
So, Amy, I would agree with what you said at the beginning about the spirit of the law, not the letter of the law. That the Prime Directive should be applied as a guiding principle to make you stop and think about your impacts on these other civilizations and try to minimize those impacts as much as possible. But I would also add, don't let the whole society die, just to not interfere.
Yes, let's not let the whole society die.
Yes.
Can that be the Prime Directive?
Yeah, how about that? How about you, Amy?
This has been a very good discussion. And this is why we podcast, to have these discussions, to think about it. oh my gosh, we're doing the Prime Directive now. It made us stop and think about the Prime Directive and to look at all the episodes in TNG and, of course, across all the iterations. I mean, if we were on All Good Things, we would talk about others. But it's so interesting to see how it gets broken and why. And then that supports what you were saying, Rhea, like it's the spirit of the law. Because if it's a law, it's just going to get broken. But to have us stop and think about, and it gives us the time also to look at that society, as you said, and to try to understand them, to not put Starfleet morals and judgment on another society. Yeah. I think it is a good thing if we stop and look at each scenario, each context individually.
Yes.
Yeah.
Understand more and judge less.
Yes.
We are not the Q. We're not the judge and jury.
That's right.
Incoming transmission.
Well, we would love to hear your thoughts on today's show and hope you'll join the Facebook group Federation Council Chambers. You're welcome to start conversations with us or add any general Star Trek info you want to share with the group.
If you'd like to send us an email, you can email us directly at galaxyclass@ufp.earth, and we will read your email on the show because we just love getting them. You can also follow us on Twitter at GalaxyClassPod.
Please hit the subscribe button on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a star rating and written review. That helps others to find the show. You can also follow the entire network's podcasts with our master feed by searching United Federation of Podcasts. This way you won't miss any of our fine shows, like All Good Things, Franchise Fatigue, Always Hold On to Arrow, General Quarters, Mickey's Marvels, Infinite Diversity, Sasquatch,
and
History with the Szilagyi.
That's right.
Oh, I can't wait to listen to that one.
Yeah, I know. I'm excited for both of them.
So, Amy, where can people find you when you are not leaving a planet to die so that you can go out for drinks with a fellow Star Trek fan?
When I am not leaving a planet to die, I'm always going to not let anyone die. But you can find me here on the network. I'm hosting All Good Things, and I'm also on Union Federation podcast talking about the Orville and Star Trek. I am on Twitter at Miss Amy Nelson, and of course in the Facebook group Federation Council Chambers. And Rhea, where can people find you when you aren't becoming the Rhea?
I am the Rhea. Well, when I am not tricking an entire planet to believe that I am a godlike deity in order to gain some type of material benefit, you can find me on the Federation Council Chambers. You can send me an email at galaxyclass@ufp.earth. And get this, I have taken a page from the book of my hero, Joe Keegan. I now have a special podcast email address. Yeah, as of like yesterday. It is riapod47@gmail.com.
How
yes,
lovely.
RIAPOD47@gmail.com. And pod referring to podcast, but back in the day, that was one of my nicknames was Riapod because I never stopped singing. So now there are more ways than ever, albeit them archaic ways, to get in touch with the Rhea.
Priority 1 message from Starfleet coming in on secured channel.
If you'd like to help us keep all our shows coming to you each week, you can become a patron of the network on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/UFPEarth to get all the details.
We would like to recognize our executive producers, Brandon Shea Mutella, Ken Tripp, Zach Moore, and Tony Robinson. We'd also like to thank Zach Tripp for our opening and closing music, and Tony Robinson for our amazing artwork.
Thank you for beaming aboard the Galaxy class, and until next time,
great joy and gratitude.
Wesley, on my home world, there was so much poverty and violence that for some people the only escape was through drugs. How can a chemical substance provide an escape? It doesn't, but it makes you think it does. Stay classy, Galaxy.
Engage.
This has been a production of MTMR Media Works.
What was their name?
Oh, it came from the Greek. I know that.
Oh, of course.
It actually did.